David became confident and comfortable. And in his confidence and his comfort, he stopped seeking after God's heart. And while he was chilling like a villain on his rooftop, he was just bathing and relaxing and bathing. And he saw this bad black beauty named Bathsheba bathing in the blue moonlight. King David engaged in gruesome and gross sin. King David sent for a beauty named Bathsheba. Well, I've got to pause parenthetically and tell you that sin will always hurt you. And it will hurt you in ways that you will see immediately and ways that you will not see immediately. Sin will always cost you. The old preacher said it will cost you more than you want to pay. It will keep you longer than you want to stay, and it will take you farther than you want to go. Y'all must be New Baptists. And so, King David conspired with sin. He knowingly engaged in sin. He gave sin an inch and it became the ruler. He gave sin a ride and it became the driver. And sin cost him. He suffered greatly because of the sin of having an affair with Bathsheba. Because Bathsheba was married and she became pregnant, he tried to cover his tracks. He tried to cover his tracks by having Bathsheba's husband, stay with me, I'm going somewhere, come home to be with his wife. Uriah was his name, but Uriah said, my people are fighting and I am a leader. I dare not lay with my wife. I will sleep at your door, king, but I will not lay with my wife. This was problematic because David the king could not cover his tracks. And so David the king killed Uriah. Sin will always hurt us. Little sins, big sins, in-between sins, known sins, private sins, public sins. Any sin will cost us. So now, David figures he'll cover his tracks by marrying this beauty named Bathsheba. Oh, I forgot to tell you, Bathsheba's daddy was named Eliam. Eliam's daddy was named Ahithophel. You missed that. This tryst, tantalizing though it might have been, David got his advisors and best friend's granddaughter as the object of his sin. And now, 10 years later, that's vintage, Ahithophel sees an opportunity to make David pay. Ahithophel says to himself, I have been waiting to get this man who messed up my grandbaby. I have been waiting to make him pay for what he did to me and how he did it to my family. Now he's going to pay. Ahithophel says, now I've got him. Absalom, send me. Let me get him. Let me kill him. Let me make him pay. Ahithophel, let me go get him. This bitterness had been brewing in his heart over 10 years. Don't look at your neighbor. Don't look at your neighbor. 10 years later. And now it results in the death of Ahithophel. Bitterness will lead to homicide or suicide. Preacher, give us some good news. There is one cure for bitterness. Are you ready? There is one cure for bitterness, and it is forgiveness. Let the church say, forgiveness. But Reverend, they hurt me so bad. Forgiveness. But Reverend, they stole my purity. Forgiveness. But Reverend, I was a child. Forgiveness. But Reverend, they changed my life in the worst way. Forgiveness. The Bible is clear in saying that we do not have the privilege of practicing retaliation. We do not have the right to engage in vengeance. God says through his word, through Paul in Romans, don't engage in vengeance. Leave room for God. Let God be God. You and I are not qualified to practice vengeance. You say, but somebody has to pay. Somebody will pay. Vengeance is mine, declares the Lord. Vengeance is mine. God says, I will make sure that right is might. I will make sure that the price is paid. But it's my choice when, how, and who. Forgiveness is always a matter of faith. Do you have faith that God is God enough to handle your situation? Do you have faith that God sees, he knows, and he cares? Do you have faith that whatsoever you reap, God is not mocked, but you will reap what you sow? Vengeance is mine. The problem with vengeance is when I engage in vengeance, I am locking myself, I am chaining myself, I'm making a deal with the devil. Vengeance belongs to God. Reverend, if you knew what they did, vengeance belongs to God. The key to breaking the chains of bitterness is forgiveness. Reverend, I can't do it. The Bible never calls you to do anything that you cannot do. The Bible does not prescribe anything to us that we cannot do. In Matthew chapter 18, Jesus is talking with Peter nonetheless. And Peter asked him about forgiveness, and Jesus engages in a parable. He says there was a man who owed $1 million. His debtor said to him and said, hey, look, you owe me $1 million. You got to pay up. You know, I've been patient. You got to pay me my money. And the man fell to his knees. He said, please, sir, I've got a family. I'm doing my best. I'll make this right. Give me some time. I'm begging you, please. Give me some time. And I don't know if it was Visa, Discovery, or MasterCard, but they said, look, okay, we'll forgive you. We'll forgive you. I like this story. Man, I make me want to call some of my debt. I like this. And so the man who now has been relieved and released from $1 million is walking down the street, and he sees a man who owes him $10. He says, hey, Jimmy, give me my money. Bible says he grabs him by the throat. Man, you owe me $10. Give me my money. You owe me. You better pay me. And while he's choking this man trying to get his $10, some servants of the master sees. And they go back to the master and say, hey, look, you know that man you just released from $1 million debt? He's choking Jimmy down the street for $10. He's choking him for $10. Now, the master was enraged. He says, wait a minute. You tell him I said, come here. And when he gets this man who's been released from $1 million, now trying to get his $10, gets to the master says, I relieved you of $1 million debt, and you are trying to exact $10? Here's the deal. I'm going to do to you just what you did to Jimmy. I'm going to require of you that you pay me all my money. And until you do, I'm locking you up. And Jesus says, the same will be done to anyone who does not forgive. Forgiveness is unique. I told you, Hebrews chapter 12, 15, be careful that you do not miss the grace of God because of the root of bitterness. Someone said, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forget our trespassers as we forgive. Oh my goodness. There is this interesting parallel between you forgiving others and you being forgiven by God. You can try to escape it, you can try to get around it, but it's like the angel Gabriel, this is just my imagination, is standing at the gates in heaven. And he will not allow anyone to enter who has not been forgiven. Right? And so you get to heaven and you're carrying 5 people with you. Gabriel says, hey, good to see you, Hodari. Who's that person behind you, those 5 people? Who's oh, this one right here? Oh, in school, this teacher picked on me. Oh, this is my father. He upset me. Oh, this is the babysitter who mistreated me. Oh, this is the coworker who did this. Oh, this is the member who never liked me. And I'm just holding on to them. I'm holding on to them because they did me wrong. Well, now, Hodar, you can get into heaven because you've been forgiven. But you've got some people behind you who haven't been forgiven. So until you let go of them, you can't get in. Her name was Kaylia Harriet. Kaylia Harriet. When she was 3 years old in Boston, she was on the deck of her apartment. She was playing like 3-year-olds do, had a high gate. It was a safe environment. Suddenly, without warning, shots rang out, and one shot hit her. Sadly, it hit her and went through her body, the center of her body, going to the back of her body and shattering her spinal cord. Immediately, Kaylia became paralyzed. Mr. Warren was a 29-year-old. He shot the gun. He was not trying to shoot anyone. He was shooting in the air. And in a freak accident, the bullet hits her. So now Kaylia is 6 years old. She is paralyzed from her neck down. She is sitting in a wheelchair, and she is testifying. And she says with broken English, "What you done was wrong, but I forgive you." Someone said, well, she doesn't know. She's too young. She's 6. She really doesn't know what she's talking about. As she comes down from the stand, she rolls her wheelchair over, and her mother gets up, Mrs. Harriet. And breaking all courtroom decorum, her mother walked over to the prosecutor's table. The guards come forward quickly. She reaches her hand out, not to strike, not to attack, but to shake this 29-year-old's hand. And as she tries to shake his hand, she's moved. She moves beyond the desk and comes around the desk. She wraps her arms around Warren, who is 29 years old. The guards who were initially trying to protect and break up any brawl that was going to ensue, they now begin to cry. They forgave him. Forgiveness is always the choice the believer has. And I hear you saying, I will forgive them after I heal from the hurt. I hear it. The only problem is you will never heal from the hurt until you forgive. You will never be whole until you let them go. So as long as you are holding them hostage, then you are holding yourself back from healing. Until you release them, you cannot live. But if you release them, you will live. David is a wonderful king. But the king that we will follow is the king who came down through 40 and 2 generations. And while he was dying on the cross, he did not say, Father, get them. Do you see what they're doing? But in fact, he said, Father, forgive my ex, Father, forgive my child. Father, forgive my friend who betrayed me. Father, forgive this person who attacked and harmed and lied on me. Forgive this person who cheated on me. Forgive this person.